got distracted. Oh. One moment, please. Fumbling all the things. Hello, everyone. Not a VTuber stream without some degree of scuff. Just, you know, it's part of the whole deal. There we go. There we go. Oh. Hey, buddy. Sherbet has come to join me. Oh, but checking in with kitties, we do have Sky, Mason, and Sammy on camera. Today, we are going to be continuing our conversion over to a file system. I've got the basics of the texture part, which is the next bit, already rolling. Part of what distracted me as I started poking it again, waiting for the ads to finish. So we'll get that. Then we should be able to get entities and items. And once we've got those, it's pretty much done as far as the data folder. For now. We have a few other types that are already on the horizon. But we'll get that wired up into the rest of it. And then we can proceed to probably more of the game startup logic. Stuff like how do you know which values or which things to load into the character's equipment right away, kind of stuff. So let's pop over there. Let's hit the right button. Put this up behind my head, so I'm sitting a bit awkwardly here. All right, so I've got the texture wrapper wired up. What I am currently doing... Hey there, James. We're in the process of getting the textures switched over to our file system. So I've got a data folder set up. I'm going to leave the art folder as it is. I'll still have to figure out how to get the tile map playing nice with this new structure, because I don't want to... I want to see if I can load the textures entirely from this folder, but at the moment, like, by default, the tile map wants to work from the, to some extent, a bit arcane, like, texture loading system that it wants to use here. We'll see if we can get around that, though. But, so what I've got is, I've got a texture template for these. The only things we need to know are what the frame size of is and what we want to... whether we want to rotate it when it moves. Most things aren't... There are going to be a lot of things that don't have rotate to face set, or that rotate to face doesn't matter. So, the floor tile map that we were just talking about, this doesn't matter because it's never going to move, it's never going to be rotated by the sprite rendering shader. But could we do that kind of thing? Yeah, sorta. But for the most part, it's frame size that matters. So when we load it in, we're going to get a file name. I do want to have some constants for these, some kind of glue together constants, so that I don't have to hard code this string here. That's a potential failure surface. The constants are already a potential failure surface, but at least they'd be concentrated. So let's see here. We have all of these, so I want to get all of this loaded so I can verify that it's all working. I'm gonna remove all of these. Again, this is just the data folder. I've still got all of that in case I realize I made a terrible mistake. But happily, or I guess, fortunately, we're only using the grid square. It's a placeholder to begin with. So somebody mentioned it's like you should avoid using placeholders, and it's, yes, if you're updating something in live or steadily, you've got to do that, and you need to make sure it's clear that you've got placeholder art and similar in there, and that it's part of like a, we need to go back and find this kind of stuff. So what the texture loader does is it looks for all the text files in one of these folders. It will then look and say, is there a paired PNG? If that file exists, then we're going to try to load it as if it were a full texture. So we've got our file contents already from the get directory file contents. We find the texture file, we load the texture file as a resource here. Then the texture wrapper has a unique dictionary load. Is you have to pass in a texture 2D to that. And because it is a Godot level object here, I'm not going to try to stringify it and add it to the file contents, and it's not going to be something that you enter as part of the pseudo Java JSON object there. So we add that, and then we stuff it in the textures collection. So the file name becomes the identifier. So we've got our background. The frame size is an array that is 16 by 16, and this is false. Again, we're kind of short-circuiting the fact that until 4.4 we won't have robust JSON deserialization. After that point, maybe we'll revisit this and try to make it so that they're actually serialized objects. And that it will do the direct deserialize and give us the corresponding, like, this doesn't fit because. That could be useful. We have to see also how the deserialize works, because some of the aspects we'd want to have just so. Like, if it references another entity that is loaded by the files, then we need to make sure that we can reference it by an identifier in the files, but when it deserializes, we load it back in. So there'd be some processing kind of stuff. Okay, so we have our texture template in terrain. I go into player. If you're curious, was dabbling with the idea of having a 32 by 32 sprite for the Nyanite. We may still revisit this. For the time being, we're sticking with the 16 by 16 format. This is actually 32 by 32 at the moment. It's just the pixels are doubled. We're not there yet, though. So we have our Nyanite. It is also 16. Pretty much everything is going to be 16 by 16 here. It does not rotate to face either. Items, we have a couple of these, but I only need the yarn ball. I don't know if we could get how it would need to look to deserialize into a proper vector 2. I may look that up, but so that we don't have to do this as an array and kind of do secondary processing. But either way. Yarn ball does rotate to face. We'll see if this works. We're converting a string to a Boolean, and we're assuming that true false on the string will work. We'll see. We'll find out pretty quick if it doesn't. Icons. We have a bunch of these. For the most part, conveniently though, they're all going to be this. Orbit, spiral, straight line, 3 burst. We haven't got burst written back in yet, but we'll get there. Spread. I'm going to use wind up mouse because I think we're actually using that for the gate thing. Hey there, White Wolf. Instant noodles sound good. What do you make your instant noodles with? With just the seasoning packet or something else? Burst is not something that we've covered. Effectively, what burst does is says every so often create another projectile. It's trickier because we are creating them in sequence, but we don't want... Previously, what that would have meant is it would have meant that the original spawn is controlled by it. And that's how we did the multi-burst spawning, was that at the time of launching the projectile, all multipliers like spreading took effect right then. But we don't do that no more. They happen at the order that they occur. So we're going to have to get the logic for blocking continuation or doing something to block the creation of a projectile. Or something along those lines. We'll see. We'll see. But burst is a little bit trickier to think about. Yep, mouse in yarn. All right, we've got all our icons. I need... I mean, I guess in theory the item icon could be different, but that's kind of the point of icon. Ah, okay. Yeah, the default seasoning for ramen is decent. I prefer the chicken type. Um, some of the you know, the flash frozen yakisoba is good. I like the spicy chicken variety of that with cheese added. Though I do find it funny. I remember an anime called it out, but the concept of microwaved yakisoba is a contradiction because yakisoba means fried noodles. Like that's the name of it, is fried noodles. And if it's being microwaved, it's not fried, it's being steamed. I mean, if you're going with a furry crowd, the costuming elements will probably be fine. But otherwise, you might be painting a target on your head. Hello, Ember. Are you going to sit with me or are you just going to stare at me? Okay. Ember has a bit of an intense look. Sky always has his eyes wide open, like the pupils fully dilated. He's pretty much perpetually in target acquisition mode. And it always makes his eyes look real soft, you know, real friendly. Ember tends to have like narrowed slit pupil, the locked on eyes when she's watching you. So it always looks a little more intense. I can't speak to the airsoft crowd by experience, but all that I've seen from like YouTube videos in that is that there isn't necessarily a strong Venn diagram overlap with the furry community. Probably more coincidental. Why are we loading? Let me check the item folder again here. Mouse doesn't have a special one. Yarn ball doesn't have a special one. Okay. So why don't we just use the icon? Okay, how we doing? Look at our catalog constants. So I'm having to be a little careful here because you can get name overlap, and I think I have to go fix that. I mean, you know, speaking of diagram overlaps, I suspect there is a overlap between urban exploring and shady snooping. Okay, so when we're parsing icons, we're keeping them separate, I think. So this is like textures for entities. Icons are pretty much the same thing. It's that we get a texture 2D directly. But there's nothing about that that says that it has to be that way. We can just get a texture for the icon. That will break something somewhere else when we do, but we can. I mean, hobbies are hobbies, man. It's what you make of them. So I think using everything in a texture wrapper is still going to help, and texture wrappers intrinsically contain their texture. So we don't really need that. So there's nothing about a texture versus an icon built into this system. Okay. So thinking on that, let's go back and let's set this up so that we have a distinction. I'm distinguishing between an icon of a wind-up mouse and a yarn ball and the yarn ball itself, because functionally, you might have a different thing there. You might try to squeeze them into a smaller part. You may use different iconography for it, like a different symbology for it. Never heard of that. That programming language there, White Wolf. Okay, so we are going to use a prefix for all of these here. What this will do is it will help ensure limited to no name overlap between base textures and their icons. I will be doing similar in a moment for like movement and the like. We're going to get rid of these imports. It's probably going to try to bring them back because Godot, but yeah, basic, visual basic, that kind of stuff. Those are like the rudimentary programming languages I remember. First coding language I played around with was BASIC in DOS. You know, the old go-to line number era. Then I think Visual Basic was the next one I played with. And then, you know, uphill from there. Okay, so we've got all of our icon files with their prefixes named. We're going to go into these others. There's nothing about an item that needs a special icon. Like, items will use the icon for of that type. Still have that there? Yeah, we don't need that. I mean, one advantage is, I mean, you still got to correct the spelling errors because syntax and the like. But normal typing doesn't necessarily help you. Normal typing and spelling doesn't necessarily help you in a code base. The console of the game Phoenix Point has 3 different spellings of the name of the word recruit. There's recruit, recruit, and I think there was like Ryu crit or something like that. 3 API spelling errors. And that's before you get into like API abbreviations and the like, where you can get just weird ways that things are presented. Oh yeah, you're still going to have one letter off, but I mean, there's nothing that makes it so that that one letter off is not going to make it a word, you know? You get all kinds of weird abbreviations and strange spellings inside of a code base, especially with external APIs, especially with low-level languages. Once you write the API, there's a great deal of momentum not to change it. Wait a minute. Okay, we gotta fix that. I just realized something. Okay, we have to bring that back. Folder, items. I actually need these. We are going to put them in a different spot. Oh, what did I mess up then with icons? That can be one of the nice things about chat environments. It's one of the nice things that kind of web chat really opened up is anonymous conversation. Like, it doesn't have to be anonymous in the sense of I'm going to get away with stuff, but it's much more you feel potentially less vulnerable. We're fixing a couple of things that I ended up breaking. I hit Control Z at the and didn't want it to do that. Now, because we're prefixing everything, we could stuff it all in one folder, but this does keep it organized. It tells you where to look without having to scroll through what may end up becoming a large list. So one of the things I'll want to do is make it so that Godot does not look at this folder as a import folder. But we'll see. I might be able to address that. That it might be irrelevant addressing that. Yeah, because I do want the folder to be copied over, and the imports I don't think are part of the packaging. But we'll have to find out. If it's not apparent, I do use Sprite for the sprite art. You can use a lot of different programs for it. I've seen people use Krita for sprite art, but I feel at that point that's real overkill. That's always something you want to look for in your tool sets, is you need to be careful not to overdo it. Potentially. So at this point, we do have a early playable alpha at this point, in that you can start a level and you can die. You can start in, you have some tools, you can edit your weaponry, and you can lose if you get hit too often. So the most primitive form of the gameplay loop is in there. So we've got terrain, we've got players. I edit the wrong folder. No, good. Data. Terrain. Player. Textures. Enemy textures. Bullet textures. Bullet. Blob. Icons. Player. Okay. So then when we're loading files, texture, so textures, and we have 5 subfolders. 5. enemy icon player terrain. We load them separately. We don't actually have to do this. And this might be something that we set up, is that we have a way to say, like, okay, this entire folder structure, like, relay it down kind of thing. So if I call data textures, it would do bullet, enemy, icon, player, and terrain. It would just keep iterating down each folder level. Get all of the files and then look for every child folder. Recurse. Is recursion great? No, it's not. But if you treat recursion like the terrible threat it is, then you can put boundaries on it. Depth limiters is one way to do it. Like, I can only go this deep and then I just stop. Doesn't universally protect you, but it helps. Alright, so we've got all these loaded. Now we need to go in. We're going to go into our constants. Not yet, James, but it is true. That is true. Line, orbit, spiral, yarn, wind up, mouse, and blank. We got all that last time. We will be going back through and addressing these. All of these should have prefixes of like target or that kind of thing. Again, not by function, but by organization, because especially with behaviors, you can get overlaps. So, like, if I have move player in a collision, then those are both behaviors. There are some programming methods that I would throw in there as cognito hazards. They're things that either they sound easy, but they're bloated. They are way more expensive than you'd like to do. Effective, but very expensive. And then there's just big risk surface. So recursion is one of the classic. It can do a lot of stuff. Like there are some data flows that it's very suited for. But if you don't constrain it well, it gets out of control in a lot of ways. So it's not just going to be an infinite loop, it's going to be an infinite loop that will bloat things quick. And it's harder to see where the boundaries are. Whereas with a for loop, you at least have an indicator of, I did not put a boundary on it. With recursion, it's the boundary is however you wrote the recursion entirely. If you unleash it on a data set that has too much depth for it to play with, then you might end up, or breadth or whatever, you might end up with the function running and running and running uh, more so than you thought. And it might end up, if you don't get your recursion trigger in there, that it just keeps calling itself. So you don't have that neat little, I'm sitting in this loop and spinning. It's, I'm in this function that called this function that called this function that called this function. Let's do that while it's fresh in my mind. Go to behaviors. Don't have behavior groups yet. That's useful. Now, they only need to have prefixes within their type. So, I don't have to worry that I might have a texture called collision knockback. Another way to put this is the upper level folder for a given data type. I should be able to take all of its child folders and dump them out into the upper level without any naming conflicts in it. It's not a movement. I'm glad you're having a good time, White Wolf. My back has finally calmed down mostly. I might need to have an icy hot break. So spawning behaviors create other entities. Again, it's usually once that they do this, but there will be a couple that will probably do it multiple times. It should be interesting to see how we can play this out. We're calling this a special. This will almost never happen. Like, I don't expect we'll ever have... Actually, no. We will never have this behavior in the game. As a standalone. This might show up in a group, but the principle of using a gate is not that it be a standalone behavior, but that instead it is part of another behavior. That behavior intrinsically gates. So we make the decision when creating the behavior group that will turn into an item that this item requires a 3-second wait before it activates. That kind of thing. Let's find that one real quick. Fundamentally changing that one's name. Oh! Well, all of the core is located in the center. It looks like a heart for artistic reasons. Marketing, you know? Normally, it wouldn't just be a rib cage. Damage entirely due to prototype testing led to the viewing panel being broken. But normally you can see inside in order to properly see the core and make sure it's functional. entirely to be expected prototype testing damage. Nothing out of the ordinary. We'll have to make sure that we're doing that right. Now, very soon, these constants won't be necessary. Soon, in big quotes. Because we will not be referencing them inside the game code. We will be loading all of that stuff into configuration files, like what are the available characters, what is the character's loadout, that kind of thing. Energy drinks can be really tempting, especially the ones that taste good or don't taste bad, or just don't taste bad. Because then it's like a soda. It's like a light drink kind of stuff. We're gonna put this way just because I want to be able to make sure that we don't get another break. Yeah, let's get the targeters converted over. Three. Targeters don't really need this prefix. Because there are no subfolders under targeter. But for consistency, we're going to do it this way. We'll use targeter because we're calling it a targeter. I could say target as in a, like it's a, target this thing, but. Well, again, and I mentioned this recently, it's if you're coming in, and especially if you're starting programming and you're looking at this and saying, like, I want to program, or even I want to program games, and you're looking at what I'm doing, this is not a reflection of the basic workflow. There are things we're doing that are very much out of the ordinary. So take what you're seeing with a grain of salt. Your experience will likely vary greatly. Entity keys are the same currently. Item keys are the same. We have not loaded items yet. All right. Let's do a test compile here and see what breaks. We should get some identifiers not found. Yeah. Get rid of load textures now. Similarly, load icons can go. You go up here and fix this. We get rid of icons. And we're going to get rid of get icon in the catalog definition. This will break things. Hey there, Lunar. Flamenco mermaid assassins. Interesting. I try. I mean, like it's a lot of this lore started with the Noida mod. Or assassins who only target flamenco mermaids. An Illinois farmer's wife, you know. Let's go into our load entities. And load items. Weird. Player. Okay, we have those in now. Again, we should have some breakages. There. So when we're dealing with icons, we're just getting the texture of it. We generally don't care about the wrapper. We should. We should care about the wrapper because we should be setting relevant parameters about it, like this is only 16 by 16 kind of stuff. Is let's go into our folders. We have behaviors, movement. It's random, right, up, rotate. Now we gotta load all those again. I closed the wrong one. Such is renaming variables. Now, one thing I might do is try to figure out a way to generate these files, like have a spreadsheet conversion process so that I can have like a page for movement types. With variable name thing, and be able to update them. We'll have to see, though. So that if I do a name change, it happens. But one of the advantages here is because of how these work now, I'm much less likely to fiddle with the names. There is something to be said for having cables that, well, it's useful to have cables that are aimed towards what you really intend to use them for. You get a lot of them where it's like, oh, it's a 1 foot charging cable. You can plug it right into the outlet, and it's, yeah, let's hope that the outlet is immediately adjacent to the thing that I want to plug it into. Left. And entities target. Okay, that should fix those. Icon blank is not present. Icon blank is there. very odd. That should have loaded stuff up. File does not exist. Oh. Okay, this one behaves differently. This one behaves differently than the other file loaders. We could... Okay, we can change it so that it passes this along. So into the parse ones will pass directory. Put it at the beginning because I know that it's going to be there, even though this is not the greatest thing to do. Since they're all clustered together like here, I can get all of them. We're going to pass it to all of them just in case. Which game was this, White Wolf? Which was your favorite childhood game? So then in texture parser, instead of this, we are going to use directory. Most things don't care about the source directory. The texture file does because it needs to look for a sibling to that file. Okay, we're not getting textures now. image load. Okay. Oh, we don't have to worry about our images getting bigger than 16,000 by 16,000, so... Okay, it is a texture 2D. Okay. There. So what we have to do is we load it as an image from the file. We create an image texture from that image. And then we load it into the wrapper. This should totally work. Did not. Properties, frame size. This was from what? Take to face. Hey. This is enemy nanoblob. There we go. Still don't have icon blank. Okay. Step through. We're still not loading textures here. We have a texture. Result is non-null. Its key isn't set. You have to make sure that gets set. This gets used elsewhere to reference back. I don't know that we still need this. We'll see. Oh, okay, no, we're going to be using this in the rendering process for the like bullets and whatnot. Okay, what do we call it? Sure, we get this in here. Okay. Okay, the items keys are being used to reference their icons as well in the catalog. So the icon key as the first thing. So we have icon blank here. Don't have an icon for the blob or the wind up Well, we have one for the wind-up mouse and the yarn. What are we calling the actual texture for that? Blob. Is that called in the constants? Texture and blob. Hate that. Catalog. Item empty again. So we're fixing our item loads here. We not have using the blank icon. No object key. Oh, okay. Because we're loading it with a... let's go into our standard inventory and see where we're loading all of that up. In the UI, UI cell. Icon key. We get the texture for it. All right. Quick break, and then we debug some more. And we're back. All right, so our textures, like our icons, do not seem to be getting loaded, which is odd. So getting to here and looking, we only have one texture loaded, having gone through bullet and through enemy. That's only enemy nanoblob got loaded. So let's look at our bullet textures here. Well, that would be why we're not loading them. Need to look at icon does not rotate to face. Yes, yes. Okay, 3 by the time we get there. Nothing in icons loads. Second here. What's this hiding? Hunting around for something a moment, folks. Oh, Windows. All right. Come on, baby. Come here, Sky. Come here. After his eye infection, Sky has become a lot more prone to just regular old runny eyes, which isn't uncommon with cats, but keeping an eye on it. Doesn't seem to be hurting anything right now, no inflammation, nothing like that. But, eye goobers. Okay, let's see. Textures, icon. That's why. See the problem? That doesn't end in a slash. That's important. All right, nothing being emitted, no enemies shown. Oh, no, here come the blobs. Yarn ball is not active, but we can see all of the other stuff is properly happening. We have our pylon swarm here. Okay, so now the yarn ball isn't activating. So in our standard inventory, I think that's where we're loading everything up. Yeah. Items for various things. So let's look at our standard catalog. Go to where we load items. Come here, Sky. Come here. Sky wants attention. He's also getting a little chubby. Got to keep an eye on that. Cats can get obese. They can get diabetic. It's something that you got to watch out for. It's a little harder to spot with him because he's so fluffy. Not terrible yet, but he's definitely getting a little bigger. I try to limit their food intake to an extent. Happily, I don't have any gorgers, but they will run over to eat usually when extra is added. So making sure that the bowl is fully emptied before just piling on more so that all of them have taken the opportunity to eat to some extent. Sky usually doesn't overeat because he eats really slowly. He picks he'll pick one or two kibbles out, like he'll take a few in his mouth. He'll back up a little bit, shake his head to be sure that he has sufficiently killed the kibbles, and then he will eat one of them. That usually results in maybe one kibble on the ground or maybe some broken kibble, and then he'll go back for another. He makes a big mess and he eats very slowly. Up any of the catalog constants related to items. Nope. this needs to be item empty here. Because we're referring to the this is the key to it that you will reference for each of these. This is not the icon, that's the key. Let's go in. Let's see if we have the yarn item or not. Getting an inventory item. We're still getting an icon blank. Hey there, Laura. Empty. Okay. Oh, there's the yarn ball. Blobs are appearing. Blobs can get hit. Player can get hit. All right. Still functioning. I would still like flocking behavior on them where they avoid each other. I might be able to have a bit of enemy-to-enemy collision on it. You know, allowing the thing to collide with other enemies. That way, they'll have like a pushback from each other kind of behavior. I'll have to be careful with that because that can result in a lot of extra collision handling. But yeah. You can see that it takes quite a bit to get rid of the mass of them that's following there. Yeah, that's why I'm not necessarily in a hurry to get rid of it, Lore. Because you have this terrible mass with it, which can be gotten rid of. Just have to hit enough of them there. Let's get our little hypnotic pattern going here. Yeah, I'm not sure how I'll do burst. Because burst in general is more of a when you fire it kind of thing. You know, a 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3 kind of firing pattern. And you wouldn't necessarily want the bullet kind of creating duplicates during that. For one, you wouldn't see them, because they would spawn right on top of the other bullet. It's not an immediate consideration, but something that we will have to figure out. Spiral out on top of the spiral in. Spiral in on top of a spiral out. So spiral in on a spiral out is it will make little circles along the path of the outward spiral, or it will try to. So you get these kind of ellipses along the path. Then the more of them that there are there, we will start to dip frames pretty soon here. This shows is like every second we're launching a few hundred of them, and they live for 10 seconds. And we're still over 60, but it wobbles around a lot. It is. This is that kind of thing where it's like, this is the kind of, it is, Laura. It is frames for damage. We have a lot of leeway on that. The game seems to still process pretty steadily. One of the things that I will likely end up doing is making sure that we have a cap on delta for frames. Since we have a central location that is the arbiter for delta, and say like it will never go, the game will never process slower than time slices as if it were 60 frames a second. So if you start losing enough frames, the game world starts to slow down. When it's faster than 60, it just means the movement's a little smoother than normal. But if you start to lose enough frames, like you start to get down to single frames per second, and you don't restrain delta, it means that you can have movement where a fast-moving object might jump through another one without colliding. Can you solve that? Yes, you can solve that by having, like, ray casts out from the object and saying, like, well, within this movement, did it hit it? But given how erratic our motion is here, those would still be unreliable. We are still moving along a curve like that. That still makes it plausible. You know, we could draw that line. But the further you go, the more likely you are to get big long lines when it was supposed to be a smooth curve. Again, that messes with stuff. But yeah. All right. So that's our full texture battery loaded in. Let's get an interim commit here. Sure we don't lose our work. Okay. Our catalog. So as far as the core loading now, we only have entities and items left in that order. So looking at entities, we have the blob, we have the player, we have the yarn ball. This is where we're potentially going to be looking at, well, we need to get behavior groups in. This isn't a big deal for them. Like, we already have that coded, let's call it. When we load up the files for that, we have a parse behavior group. And when we go into that, what that's doing is it's getting the behaviors for each of the keys that is listed in an array of strings inside of that under behaviors. So, back to our data, we go to behaviors, we have behavior groups. Let's get a template. I believe we're calling this a behavior group. Behavior groups don't have a subtype. I don't think they have a subtype. Okay, no subtype. They are not movement behaviors, so they don't have a targeter. They do have a property called behaviors. And that property is a string array. Don't want to risk... We need to be careful with this one. Because each of these is going to be a string. I think we're okay doing it this way. The question will be is, are the new lines going to come through? And we're going to find out. So we're going to hop back over to our load entities. This is our template, so let's do that. Group. No. Blob. Oops. We could call this like base enemy behaviors because a lot of them are just going to behave as I move directly towards the player and try to hit them. So we're going to do that. Most enemies will only do 1 damage. Huh? We're going to see how this parses first. Okay, it's not correctly escaped here. In stream. Okay. Check something here. I want multi-line strings. I want strings broken across multiple lines, but I don't think we can do that then. All right, it just has to be messy. Try it like that. Properties, behaviors. All right. Once again, we need internal. Will it let us get away with just doing this? Oh, wait. You. This is part of the reason that I want to have the actual deserialization take place as much as possible. Because I'm having to use escape characters in this, and that's just not good. Behaviors. It's very odd. Okay, so it's not finding one of these values. Here's all loaded up. We have the one gate loaded. Special loads one. Movement loads a bunch. Collision loads a bunch. So let's look at the behaviors now. Collision harm one. Yep. Oh. That's what's null. We didn't configure our behaviors collection there. Okay. So as the base behavior set of a blob, let's get the rest of them coded in then. Or written in this case, because we don't have to actually code them in anymore. That's weird. Again, suggesting functions that don't exist. We're probably going to make base behavior just a behavior, because we want that to always be like a group. Blobs are moving in. They home on the player. Yep. They strike the player. They cause damage. Okay. So now we have the concept of behavior groups loaded in. Let's look at the behavior group principle here. I'm sorry, the entity. A base behavior is not intrinsically a group. Ah, okay, that's just because of how we're doing it. We're saying behavior group here. We're going to get this all wired up in the hard-coded form using behavior groups, and then we're going to switch it over to just the files, loading those. So one of the things we can do with this kind of pattern is we could give characters different base behavior groups. like for the player, to fundamentally change how a given character moves, in addition to things like, oh, they have a base speed up, that kind of thing. So base player has player hit. Order. And move player. So then we can just do this. So the yarn ball. That is its first. It's got 4 behaviors. Checks its lifespan first, then it will impact an enemy and do damage. Sorry, no. It has health. So its health is checked. Then it inflicts harm, and then it harms itself. So if there is a valid collision, those things happen. Hey there, Awakened. Welcome back, then. Oh, and then it has movement fixed random. Needs to actually move. Oh, good to have you back. We are moving along with our game here. We're getting our data file structure set up. The text files that determine all of the content of the game. Yarn ball. Yarn ball still doing yarn ball stuff. Player still doing player stuff. Slime's arriving. Yarn balls can collide with slimes. Slimes can collide with player. Good. Okay, that is behavior group set up. We have fully everything except entities and then items loaded in as far as our existing data structures. So, for those not familiar, entities are the things in the world, the player, the bullets, the monsters, So defining them is what type of thing they are. This is an enemy that determines what it bumps into. Then what it looks like, the texture key. So this will be entirely a string. Things that care about the texture will go get that. Oh, these magic strings won't be in here. These will be gone. Typos will be a problem inside the files themselves, but the code won't have them anymore. Like, most of this stuff will go away. So, there are some concessions going on. We have a type here. Sadly, because we can't do actual deserialization right now, we have to do this mess. But these are effectively file names. In fact, these are file names. That's how the system works. That will be useful to us. If we can get a structure in place so that they have to link up to existing file names, and if I change a file name, it will unbreak things, that would be great. So let's get entities in there. We have category, texture key, base behavior. Okay, that's actually it. So it'll be file name for this. This has to be a number. We could have this be a string. We should probably have this be a string, and we will parse it into something in the enemy. When we define an entity, we have this constant. We'll have a translation in here. A static function that will convert a string to an entity category. Because again, we want these files to be human readable. We want you to be able to look at that and say, okay, these patterns exist. I could just mess with this value here. Now, when somebody's just messing with it, there's going to be no protection for getting the strings wrong. But we'll see. Okay. Here. Data entities. Text file. Template. So we need a category, a texture key, and a base behavior. Category. Okay. And we'll have to go into entity and have it interpret those. So we have our blob, our player, and our yarn. That's right. Player bullet enemy. Texture key. Okay. There's our player. Yarn ball. And our behavior is yarn ball. Enemy. Our texture key. That in our behavior group is base enemy. Okay, we have the entities loaded. Oh, the entities are ready to load. Now we need a parse entity here. Slightly typing impeded. Sky is on my lap. He be snoozing. Okay, let's see. Already forgotten how I was doing this. Should do an if not null thing. Eh. If it breaks, it breaks during it. Entity, and we need to go to our constructor. If be helpful. Oh. Why not keep them all in one place? I will have to look at some case insensitivity here. At the same time, again, this is one of those, if you don't enter it, we just need to make sure that we get some leeway there. We can do things like 2 upper and whatnot in some of these spots. We'll look into it. Enemy. Enough. Okay. In our entity proper here. Okay. Category is equal to entity category from string. Lots of hard-coded strings in here that we'll have to address, but let's get these rolling first. Is catalog, get behavior. What do we have in here? Space enemy group. Texture key. So now when we load up the entities, we'll be able to initialize them accordingly. And we're not duplicating an entity, so all of this stuff isn't in there, and this bit isn't in there. The position change isn't in there. Okay. So then in our catalog, in our standard catalog, it's inventory UI. So we feed that in. We now have a parse entity. So up here, entity file. Should change those for consistency, but okay. Entities. Parse an entity file. Again, constants, constants, constants. We'll set up all of those. It's primarily, we'll be replacing this song and dance. We have the beginnings of it right here. Are we using it yet? Nope, nope. Got all the entity load in there. Let's get rid of that. And we need to make sure, yep, we're loading that file. Let's find where we're find all the immediate breaks here. Behavior. Just a quote. And from here we are oh. Need well, now that we have entities in there, we don't need the template files. Now, I might come up with a how-to to put in these, but I need to come up with a format that it will be ignored. We'll get rid of the rest of them soon. Okay, we need in the game startup to make sure that the entities are named appropriately. So let's look at our standard catalog. Sorry, our constants. And we're looking for this one. Should appear somewhere. There we go. Okay, let's go into our constants. All right, entities are in the system now. Behaving as expected. Collisions, maybe not. Let's hammer the test a little harder here. Okay, they are not colliding, which implies that they're in the wrong groups. There's nothing that says the player has to be that. It's entirely because it's configured to be that. why. There. Bullet. Enemy. All right. They are being expunged once more. Lots of special strings that we need to get rid of. But we need to make a pass of that once we've got all the object types loaded in. Just want to get to that final stage first. But yeah, getting these as constants within the object, like load a couple of constants, well. Like that. Okay. Got that one there, and this up. That up. Okay. On to items. Here we go. Icon key, an object key, and a tooltip. Okay, well, items are super straightforward. We'll not be using that anymore. These. It's object key and not entity key because items can be entities, they can be behaviors, that kind of thing. Once they are actually loaded into the inventory, the system essentially trusts that you won't lie to it. That is, when we load a weapon into the inventory, we tell it, here's a weapon item. It trusts you. because it will use these keys to get them. Now, we could have a type check when it gets it and says, like, oh, is it the right kind of thing? But this is another, if you lie to the system, it will break. Isn't that nice? Again, this is the kind of thing stuff like language models are for. It is predictive text generation. As soon as you get into other stuff, it's starting to get wonky. So the thing about a template in this scenario is that because it's a text file, I could also come up with a custom extension so that we can ignore text files. That would be fine, and it wouldn't actually change any of the core logic. But for now, blank is a special item. This is the empty inventory slot item. Jim. And cool tip. This is where this is another one of those spots where I guess this is a demonstration of why we do want to have some sort of, like, at least on the developer side, a tool for keeping track of all of the names and values so that we are less likely to mess it up. Also want to figure out what's missing in my project to get these into the project. That could get me some flexibility there as well. All right, we have blank, we have the blob. We're not using the blob, actually. For testing purposes. Okay. Check this. This is not correct if I recall. No, that's correct. That's should not be correct. Because this is a behavior and what we're calling it. I have a behavior called gate. Oh, okay. No, see. This requires an object named gate, an entity named gate when it loads it, though. So... Okay. Yeah, that is broken. Just want to verify that it's still doing what the gate wait 3 is doing what it's supposed to do. Because we could see there that putting the gate in it just outright broke it, because the behavior that it was trying to load for the weapon did not exist. Still getting... Okay, we get a gate wait 3 is not present. Gate wait 3 should be a behavior under... Oh, it's special wait. Well, no. Yeah, the behavior is special wait 3. Yeah, special wait 3. Not gate wait 3, that is the gate object. Special is the behavior. Special being a catch-all category for things that probably won't exist. Because, you know, they're not moving, they're not spawning, they're not waiting, they're not reacting, they're not colliding, nothing like that. This particular one, at the very least, would not be a real behavior because it is just a do nothing but have a gate. Anything that's going to have a gate is going to just have the gate on it. So then in our items, in our standard catalog, we're adding it by name here. Still going to be called gate. Okay. Sure, it still works. Doesn't work. But that's probably the nature of special weight 3. Files. Going to step over this. Look, and now behaviors should have a special weight 3. Has no gate key on it, and that's the important bit. Because the property is called gate and not gate key. Hello, Hygor. Or perhaps Hygor? Okay. In a behavior, which is entity, behavior, set the gate key. We're reading gate key and not gate. It should be gate key. Oh. Can I fix that? Yes, I don't want to fix it right now. Though, can I fix it right now? Let me check. No, in both interpretations of the sentence, both in correcting your typo and in the sense of what's an IA. Okay, most of them do not list gates, so I can probably do this. Question mark? Okay, fully not working now. Gate and parse special. Gate weight 3. Special behavior has gate weight 3. With its key being special weight 3. And when we load items, this is just its key. But we've updated the key appropriately. So what's breaking down here? Base inventory. Okay, so then we build entity templates. So we have an error in the gate logic here, at least as far as the behaviors are concerned. We need to find out why it's not catching a gate here. Process behaviors. Add a gate. Does not catch gate weight 3. Okay. Narrows it down. Sit down to when we load files in gates. Gates has a value that is called gate weight 3. And that is the value I've entered there, right? Yeah. Oh. No, I didn't. Maybe you can't see it, but I've entered the wrong gate. I want gate as in door. I have gate as in stride length or something like that. All right, gates are working again. Okay. Nice. Good question, Laura. Let's take a look. They are often capable of not moving at all, but it may have frozen. I think Mason is in a slightly different position. One of the reasons that eventually I will switch over to power over Ethernet cameras, as opposed to these little Wi-Fi jobbies that I've got. Less prone to weird behavioral glitches like that. That one in particular reboots at least once or twice a day. And I don't mean as in I reboot it once or twice a day. It effectively just, restarts itself for unknown reasons. Might be in one of the logs on the camera. I haven't checked. Okay, so we have the items are ready to go. I just need to load them now. I think. No, they're not ready to go. I need to finish getting them ready. Okay, so there's our blank. We're gonna have our we're gonna get the constants in here so that we can keep using the interim logic. Nano blob item. Inventory. State. Mouse. Control. Wait. 3. Okay. Now we have item yarn ball. This posture. Icon yarn. as yarn. Yarn ball. Out. Spiral icon. Rotate out. Spiral in is one of the demonstrations of how the logic behaves when stacked, because you get really different results based on when and where the spiral in begins. And what it's targeting. Out, rotate in. Nope, we're gonna change that. But what we're seeing here is how I will be able to set up new items and whatnot, because once all of this is configured and I remove this fixed logic, then the source of truth is those folders. Fixed random. I want to put wave and whatnot in the test case. You don't have a wave icon yet. Spread. Right. Spread. not have an icon for those? Textures icon. Yeah, at one point I thought I had patterns for wave and that whatnot, but the icon pattern changed since then. And then in constants, we need to go sure we have all of our items named accordingly. Wind up mouse item yet. We don't have this one wired up right now to cursor is interesting. Then in our base inventory, we're gonna cut down to 3 gates there because that's as many as you can practically have. We'll have one of those. 5 of those is the most practical. Don't have the constants for those. Let's just get, no, actually, this is temporary. Okay, so these will fail. So we shouldn't see 2 circles after the straight lines. Yeah. We don't see 2 circles here. We're not emitting the yarn ball, though. Oh, because we changed the name of the item. We need to load it this way. Actually, no, that should still work. Might no work. Still loading items. We're not loading them from the files. Okay. Okay, so this in our inventory list. We add the yarn ball. Item yarn ball, okay. Do the rest of them. It airs out, that's why. Because these don't exist yet. Okay. All right, we have those in place. Now we are going to parse an inventory. We're going to set up a parse inventory file in the standard catalog here. Parse item file. Just copy over. Inventory item. Believe it is items. Item is already a known concept. Go into our inventory item. Let's make sure that is gone. We never blank initialize them. Load it in. Now we fix this thing where we're not going to be loading any of these here anymore. Get rid of that whole function. Have another spot that breaks as a result of that right there. We have our parse item file. Now we're going to file contents, items. Now everything will still totally work. Now it explodes. Item empty. Blank. Should be empty. Yarn ball working. Spread on yarn ball working. All is functional there. Okay. Now we are going to go back to that base inventory. And we're going to try to add these back. Now we have our wave motion and our... Oh, this one is the zigzag one. I didn't change its tooltip. That moves in a angular back and forth fashion. Coverage here. So then we'll change it to actual wave motion here. So you can see how they much more smoothly oscillate back and forth there. If I put a spiral out, this is spiral out after the wave. So the spiral's rotation is applied after the waveform's rotation. Here is the spiral before the wave rotation. So we get this twirl at the beginning. There is a rotate in instead of the spiral. We get a very similar behavior. Swap those. So again, you can see little spins here happening now and again, where they'll stop and spin quickly. And that is influenced by the fact that the spiral in moving along a straight line will do these little circles, but the wave motion is also doing a sort of left-right rotation, and every now and then that will make the rotation incredibly tight around a spot, so it'll spin in place for a moment. But then if we put the zigzag here, so you'll get very regular motion and like tighter spirals. Slower spirals, tighter spirals, back and forth. Our spiral in, so we'll put spiral out. So again, it rotates between, it goes back and forth between a tighter spiral and a wider spiral. This is the general mechanic that we're looking at, where as much as like bouncing, penetration of projectiles, that kind of thing, it's how does it change the motion of the projectile? Because you want to be able to hit enemies with it. You want to be able to hit lots of enemies with it. So for the projectile that you have is more damage or more knockback or something like that. Is that what you want if it's paired with a spiraling motion? That might be absolutely yes. The spiral makes it so the projectiles can cover more space. But it might be that no, everything else that I've got is going to be messed up by that spiral. Will it still do all of the other bonus things? Absolutely, but maybe it's harder to hit stuff with now. Okay, that gets... So where we got today, is all of the basic items, like things in the game, are now loaded via the file system. We no longer need hard-coded stuff in the dictionary class or the catalog class to handle all of that loading. So if I want to add a new entity, I just drop in a new file. If I want to add in a new variation on an existing type of movement, maybe like a slower spiral or a faster spiral, or, you know, a straight line that always moves in, it moves in a random direction, but also with a wave pattern, then I can just drop files in that will do that. And that item is immediately available to the game to use. Now, making it appear to the player currently requires some hard-coded values. I need to know those constants inside the game files. Don't like that. So the next aspect is going to be getting those initial loadouts coded up. The idea of what is a player character, will likely be what texture they use, what loadout they start with, and potentially things like what health and speed do they have. How fast do they move? How much health do they get? That kind of stuff. So we load that into a player object. We load that from file as well. This is what this player looks like. This is what stuff they start with at the beginning of the game. Which eventually then we can get stuff like, hey, when you start the game, which character do you want to use? If I select this one, I get this stuff. Will mean I need to get a second character sprite going. We'll probably start with just some different Nyanite skins, since it's easy to change like their faceplates, that kind of stuff. That's what we did in the original Noita mod. Is for different like Twitch levels and stuff like that, we had different faceplates and ear shapes. Maybe we'll have to revisit that concept eventually. I do want to get Twitch and YouTube API plugins for it, such that when you're playing the game, it will latch on and try to parse stuff. Now, how well will I be able to do that with YouTube? That's tricky. YouTube's API is much... I'm going to say it's much more like code robust for interacting with chat, but it's also more complicated to interact with as a result. Might just have to come up with stuff that does like, hey, who are your subscribers kind of thing. But we'll see. We'll see. In any event, I hope you like what you saw tonight. Or at least I hope you had a good time tonight. If you like what you saw and would like to see more, remember to like, follow, subscribe, comment, follow all of those buttons. If any of those will help the channel grow and will help you find content like this in the future. Bit frazzled. With all of that said, I hope the rest of your day is good, and I'll see you next time.